Why is it that you can have a completely good life on paper but feel entirely empty on the inside? Not sad or angry or depressed in the crying in the shower kind of way, just sort of hollow. Like a piece of you is missing and you don't know when it went missing and how to get it back. Maybe you have the job you always wanted, you drive the car you always wanted, you have people that care about you. Life's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And there's this persistent feeling of emptiness that you can't really explain. And the scary part isn't necessarily the feeling itself, it's the fact that nothing outside of you seems to explain it or address it. No matter how many achievements you have, no matter what you buy, what goals you check off your list, it just seems to persist and get stronger. For me, I was always a really introspective kid and kind of mature beyond my years, very existential thinking. What's the purpose of life? Why am I doing this? Even in my early teens. And I used to kind of have this nihilism of, what's the point of all this? Why am I here? What am I here to do? And I never really found a satisfying answer. And the thing that I settled on was the answer to this feeling is progression. It's the achievement of goals. So I set fitness goals for myself. I set the goal of becoming a doctor, set the goal of making good money, driving a certain car, having a certain kind of partner. And one by one, as I started to check off those goals, I found that this feeling, instead of getting better, it actually got worse. Because it was like, wow, all these things that I thought would address this feeling didn't work. And now, not only is the feeling still there, but I have less hope and answers for how to actually address it. So if goals themselves aren't the answer, then how do we get rid of this feeling of emptiness and actually feel like we're living, not just existing day to day? There's a few different ways to look at this. And the first thing is to understand that the world is very good at keeping you full, but leaving you empty. Think about what your typical day usually looks like. You might wake up and reach for your phone. There's messages, social media, videos, the news, every corner of the world, some tragedy. You're probably listening to a podcast during your commute or some kind of music. You work in front of a screen all day. You come home and unwind with a different kind of screen, streaming something, browsing through social media. And essentially, from the moment you wake up to the moment you close your eyes, your mind is occupied. We're consuming more content of some kind than any generation in history. I don't care if it's self-development content like this, if you want to call it that, or garbage reality TV or the news. It's just a constant stream. And even though on paper we're so well informed and technically supposed to be so well socially networked, we have never felt more disconnected. And the reason is stimulation and fulfillment are not the same thing. Modern life and all its supposed luxuries are very good at keeping us entertained or occupied more so, but it's much less effective at making you feel deeply satisfied and connected to what you're doing. And that's why it feels like we're running on a simulation instead of actually living our lives, because we're just so busy and distracted that there is no time to introspect and think about what our soul is actually talking to us about. And another reason is that we live our lives very algorithmically and based on blueprints that are often set by other people. Some of us are really good at following a plan and accomplishing goals and checking boxes, and that's not an issue. The issue is that ladder is just leaned up against the wrong wall. You're told go to school, get a certain kind of job, build your resume, get a certain kind of house by a certain age, get married by a certain age, have kids by a certain age, hit these milestones in the right order, post on social media about these milestones, and that's supposed to be your path to happiness and fulfillment. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with a lot of these milestones. Some of them are really good, and some of them are being taught to you by people with life experience, but that doesn't mean that the entire thing is the correct prescription for you to follow. And that's why at some point after you're done checking all these boxes, you kind of look up from the checklist and you think to yourself, like, is this it? I checked every box here. Why does it feel like I'm not actually living life? Why do I have this persistent feeling of that same emptiness that I had before, only now I have more material things around it? And that's the issue with this model where external achievement produces internal satisfaction. For most people, that feeling either never comes, or you do the thing or you get the thing, and then the feeling is there for a few days or a few hours, and then it just feels completely flat again. And that's not ingratitude or you being spoiled. That's just what happens when you build a life around a version of yourself that other people or societal programming designed for you rather than you ever thinking about it. Essentially, you follow a map to a destination that you never actually wanted to arrive at. And that's why you see a lot of times these successful entrepreneurs who feel empty, doctors, athletes, executives. It doesn't matter the status or the money or all these things that are supposed to fix this problem. Until you address the root causes, it doesn't matter how you decorate it. It's still the same issue. Like I mentioned earlier, I felt the exact same way throughout my time as a college student. I was miserable and I was like, you know what? Once I become a doctor and I have that title and I'm making all kinds of money, everything's going to be all good. And not only was it not all good, it was in a way worse because I achieved all these goals and I was making the money and I was doing the job I wanted to do. But I still had that same feeling, only now I felt hopeless because I didn't know what am I supposed to do to get rid of it? The thing that was supposed to fix it didn't fix it. So what do I do now? And that answer is not just success in the tangible realm. If your entire identity and fulfillment becomes, oh, I'll finally be okay when I get this next thing or get to this next goal, you're going to unknowingly create a finish line that just keeps moving on you. And eventually you get to this point where on paper you've built a very good life for yourself. And yet when you look in the mirror, there's like no soul in your eyes. And you're just waking up, plugging into the simulation, just existing day to day rather than actually living. And another aspect of this is just dopamine and the lack of stillness in our lives. I'm not going to go in depth about dopamine. I mean, we've all heard it at this point. There's way too much going on, and all of our dopamine receptors are essentially fried. Every notification, every new video, every doom scroll, every little reward that just keeps you chasing that next hit until you feel completely numb and you don't feel anything. So you can do all the dopamine detoxes you want, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, but really the core of it comes down to stillness. Our lives don't have room to just sit and do things for the sake of doing them. It's all with a goal in mind. I have to do this so I can improve at XYZ thing, or so I can post about it on social media, or because that's what the cool kids are doing and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or this is going to make me more money. When's the last time you just sat down and read a book because you felt like it, completely absorbed in that book? Or you picked up your guitar and just started riffing? Without recording, without anything, just in the moment. And this lack of stillness is another thing that contributes to that feeling of emptiness, because again, it just makes you feel like you're plugged into the simulation, existing just to produce and use resources rather than actually living your life. And stillness and presence is the key to actually feeling yourself in this realm. Like, yes, I'm in this bitch and I have agency and I can do things and I can create and I can milk this amazing existence to experience new things and see new things and feel inspired and feel awe. All of that stems from actually having stillness in your life. And you can get that stillness in many ways. It doesn't have to be just meditation or sitting there quietly. You can do a hobby you really like, go for a hike, be in nature, be in the sun, actually listen to music, not just in the background, but listen to the words, listen to the melodies. Do something that just forces you to be in the moment. That's why when I'm at the gym, it's no longer even about the physical pursuit or the way I look. It's just that mental stillness of, hey, for these 45 minutes to 1 hour, I'm just going to have my headphones in, I'm going to lift, and all I'm going to focus on is each rep. And all that matters in the world at that time is just that rep, doing the best I can, and being still in that moment. The gym at this point is more of a mental pursuit for me than it is a physical pursuit. And over this last year, I've tried my best to get outside and do hikes without any headphones, without anything distracting me, just listening to the birds chirping, walking my dog, looking at him being all excited, smelling all these new things, going to new places. And of course, meditation's helpful as well. But doing whatever you can do to bring this aspect of stillness into your life and actually giving yourself the room to be like, hey, what's actually going on in my mind? What thoughts do I have? What ideas are trying to come up that I keep suppressing because there's no room for silence? So it's not just about doing a dopamine detox so you can turn around and post about it on social media. It's about reclaiming the control of your life and not handing that power over to these algorithms. It's about actually feeling something like you're actually alive and you're actually a person, not just some NPC doing things every single day on some subconscious program because that's what you see other people doing and that's what you're used to doing. And once you get into the habit of building that stillness and being able to listen to the voice in your mind talk to you, you're going to be able to ask yourself, what is it that you actually want? And this is a surprisingly difficult question to answer because, again, most of our answers are just based on the algorithms that we've been trained on. So it's not about what your parents want for you. It's not about what's cool online, what earns approval from the people whose approval you've been chasing, what genuinely makes you feel alive. And for a lot of people, including myself at the beginning, there's no immediate answer. Because we've spent so long adapting to people's expectations, we've stopped listening to ourselves and that voice that speaks to us when there's room for stillness. You're so focused on looking impressive on a resume or earning a certain amount of money or getting a certain amount of likes that you forget what it is that your soul actually aches for. And that's what contributes to that emptiness, is just living inside this identity that you know is not who you were supposed to be. You know at a subconscious level that you're just playing a role. And somewhere along the way, you just lost that element of who you truly are. So don't run from that feeling of emptiness, and don't just run to your closest dopamine source to cover it up and pretend that it's not happening. It's a sign from your subconscious that you need to change something, that you're not living the way you know you're supposed to be living. And it's not about being immature and dropping everything and quitting your job. There are real world responsibilities that you have to take care of. But again, making that room for silence and stillness and allowing yourself to introspect and think, what was it that gave me a spark as a kid? What was the thing that I always wanted to do that either I grew out of or I didn't think was realistic? What did I think of when I wanted to be a dreamer? For me, I wanted to be a teacher growing up. And my parents rightfully talked me out of it. They told me that, hey, teachers don't make very much money. You should do something else. And unfortunately, they were right. And what do you know? What am I doing now? Is this not a form of teaching? All of my businesses at the very core are me teaching previous versions of myself. And I'll tell you, The amount of fulfillment I have now getting to work on this stuff, I make no money from this, at least right now. Hopefully one day it comes, but right now it's costing me money to record this, pay my team, all that stuff, but I don't care. At my soul level, I always wanted to be a teacher. I love to learn, I love to turn around and teach others, and I get to do this through this platform. And that only came to me when I made that room, when I went into that feeling of emptiness and thought about, hey, what did I always want to do? Who am I truly? And what is it that actually makes me feel alive? When I'm teaching someone something and I see that spark in their eye of something just clicking, that is the most fulfilling thing ever for me. So you have to think about it at a soul level. What is it that you truly want in every area of your life, independent of what other people think and what other algorithms think? And then try your best to fit that in realistically to your day-to-day life until you can fit more of it in and it becomes the main thing. And one thing you're going to find when you start doing that is that meaning is built in your life. It's not found. It's easy to say, hey, you have to find the purpose of your life or find the meaning in life. But truly, it is what you make of it and what you build with it. It comes from creating rather than just consuming all the time. It's not going to come from just watching a million more videos and reading all the books. You have to move, you have to build, you have to create something in the world that wasn't there before. That only gets to exist because you're here in this moment, and you were put here to do this. So once you reflect and you figure out, hey, this is what I'm naturally driven towards. This is what gives me a spark in my life. This is what makes me excited. This is what I wanted to do as a kid. And you find a way to realistically make that a part of your life, even a small part. Just start moving. Create, put something out there, teach someone something, help someone with something in that realm. And once you start to take that step, the rest of the path will illuminate for you, but it won't happen if you're just sitting there doing nothing. You have to build yourself into that version that you see in your vision of who you want to be. So remember, meaning is built. It is not found. There is no secret answer at the end of some YouTube video or some checklist telling you how to do something or a million other books. At some point, the information's great, but until you put left foot in front of right foot and move forward, nothing is going to happen. If you wanted to be a musician growing up and you grew out of it or it didn't seem realistic, tomorrow, put out a shitty first version of a song on the internet. Just move. And once you do, you'd be surprised how ideas start coming to you, opportunities start coming to you. It's like a weight gets lifted off, and all this stuff that was meant to be yours just slowly starts moving towards you, and you just have to keep moving towards it. I don't know what's going to come of all my quote unquote teaching that I do with these brands, but whatever happens, it doesn't matter what happens in the tangible world, because at my soul level, I love to teach, so I'm going to do this no matter what. Whether I do it at a local level, chatting with my friends about this stuff, or I just turn on the mic and put it out to the world, I'm doing it either way. And slowly that emptiness just starts to erode because I'm building myself into the man that I know I need to be and building that meaning in my life through what God has put me here to do. And the final thing I'll leave you with is that feeling of emptiness is not your enemy. It's sort of like a question. It's asking you, what are you doing? Or more likely, what are you not doing that you know you should be doing? What were you actually built for? What do you genuinely value, not what you were told to value? What kind of life would make you feel like you're actually living it, not just performing it on some kind of stage for other people? And most people, including myself before, are never going to sit with these questions because it's uncomfortable. As soon as you have that moment of silence where you can actually think and these thoughts come up and you can introspect, you're just going to fill it with picking up your phone and browsing on social media or pretending to be busy doing useless shit. But eventually when you get sick and tired of all that stuff and realize it's not working, you're going to have to face this question and face that feeling of emptiness. And in that moment, remember, there's nothing wrong with you. This is not your enemy. It is a challenge to you. You know what the answers are. You just have to be comfortable enough to ask yourself the questions. And I understand why you don't. It's not easy. It is challenging because naming it makes it real. And once it's real, you start to recognize the part you played in it and the time you wasted and how things could have been different. But that's just all part of the process. And the longer you delay it, and the longer you delay facing this feeling of emptiness, the louder it's going to get. And it's going to find more ways to come up in your life. Irritability, numbness, regret, anxiety. So remember, instead of facing it like it's something abnormal or something to run from, face it head on and treat it like the question that you know the answer to. All the best. I'll see you next time.